Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Melissa. I'm the owner and artist here at the Top Drawer RVA, and I'm also a Dixie Belle brand ambassador. For today's project, we are going to paint this little pine box in a whimsical, fun little way. We are going to paint it an ombre blend, add a transfer, and also a silkscreen stencil. This is a longer format video. You are welcome to fast forward to the end to see the finished product. But for now, let's jump in and do a little ombre blending with Dixie Belle paint products.
Well, hello Dixie Belle paint fans. How are you today? It is Melissa from the Top Drawer RVA coming to you live from the dining room floor, where we get together every Wednesday at 3 p.m. to sit on the floor or small stool and play with some paint. So welcome. It's good to see you again. I have a new project in front of me, and I thought we could get together and do a little bit of blending, talk a bit about a new product that is coming out, and paint. So welcome. If you don't know who I am one of Dixie Belle's brand ambassadors, and I am here every Wednesday at 3 to do some sort of teaching tutorial with you in regards to Dixie Belle paint products. You can always find me here on Facebook at the Top Drawer RVA, and if you're looking for any information or tutorials that you are trying to learn about chalk mineral paint or anything Dixie Belle, you can always find that on my YouTube channel under the same handle, the Top Drawer RVA. So let's do it. I have a new piece here in front of me, and it's a little rustic, and we're gonna go with it. We're gonna go with rustic, and it is a pine handmade, I'm gonna call it like a magazine rack. Can you see how it has like the solid sides, a little bit of indent on the inside? Structurally super solid, in great shape. This piece is in great shape, but it is chunky, and the color is meh. I'm not a fan of that pine orange color. So we are going to paint it today. I'm going to paint it, and then I'm going to distress it. So for today's project, I've only cleaned with white lightning to prepare and got it ready for paint. Now, you might have heard the news. You might have heard the new news. Did you hear that Dixie Belle's coming out with a new product? So Bonding Boss is going to be available in gray, white, and clear, and it's going to be replacing Slick Stick as well as the regular Boss that you would use. It's a two-in-one, y'all. Two-in-one, two-for-one deal. It's your great problem solver to go to for now, anything slick or shiny surfaces, as well as anything that would possibly have bleed through. Now, this piece that you see in front of me is pine. If I was painting a light color like white or a creamy neutral, I would choose to prime this pine, because pine is notorious for bleed through, with a problem solver like Boss. It would be up to you if you're using clear, so that when you distress back you would just see wood, or if you were to use gray, if you were painting something pink or yellow, and if you were painting anything else, like if you're painting this white and you wanted to make sure that everything was blocked and bleed through, you would use your Bonding Boss in white. So this product is brand spanking new, coming soon to a retailer near you by the end of January 2024, which is almost right up on us. We're right there. We are very close to the new year, and this is a brand new baby product. So I just thought I would show it to you today, because if I wasn't painting in a ombre blend, and if I was going lighter, I would have to make sure that I corrected this piece with a primer that was going to appropriately block stains and bleed through. And that would be the new Bonding Boss in white, which again, coming soon to a retailer near you. Check it out, so cool. And that is it for the Bonding Boss. I'm not going to be using it today, because actually when you do use this, you would use it in the same way that you would use your other bonding primers. You would apply 2 even coats waiting 24 hours before paint. So since I'm going to be doing a darker ombre tone and I'm going to be sealing with wax, I am not going to be using the Bonding Boss today. But you know that pine is terrible for bleed through. It's notorious for bleed through. And if it was any other color other than what I'm doing today, and knowing I'm going to be using wax to seal, I would prepare with Bonding Boss. So now you don't have to worry if you're like slick or shiny, if it's got possible bleed through and you don't know what to do, this would be the product for you. All right, so stay tuned. Coming soon to a retailer near you. But what are we gonna do today? What do we got going on today? So this little magazine rack, I'm gonna paint it today in an ombre fashion, and then I thought once it dries, maybe tomorrow I'll add some stencils, something else. But for now, we're gonna go neutral, we're gonna go rustic, and I'm going to use 2 colors. So today's project is going to be dried sage as well as pine cone. both in the brown to tan family and both very easy to ombre blend together. If you know about ombre blending, you know it's easier to do when you have two paint colors that are very close in color value. It makes your job easier to blend those colors together. And when I say ombre blending, that's really all that it is. It's just a couple colors together to marry them together to create an effect that shows kind of like a graduate in color, okay? The next tool that I totally recommend if you're into blending would be your Best Dang brush. This Best Dang brush is a synthetic as well as a natural fiber brush. I really, really, really love this brush. This makes my blending job super duper easy. So if you haven't gotten one of these yet, Merry Christmas, go buy one. You will love it, I promise. I promise. I also have a spray misting bottle filled with water and a brush for each color. So let's do it. Let's just jump in. This is going to be a short and sweet, simple video, but it's a lot of fun to get in here and create a kind of neutral ombre blend and hopefully not make too much of a mess because I have another project underneath here that I'm working on and I don't want to make too much of a mess. All right, so I have two paintbrushes, one for each color. I'm going to start off with my dried sage. Dried sage is a really pretty neutral. There is holes, FYI, in here from like staples or nail guns. I'm not going to cover them because, like I said, I'm going to be doing a rustic look to this piece. I don't even know, to be honest with you, if I will do a full 2 coats because I kind of want some of this wood to peek through. I want it to feel a little woodsy, if that makes sense. We're going to go rustic and woodsy. So this is the beautiful dried sage, which is one of my most favorite colors. This and Spanish moss go together so well, and I use them both a lot. I'm going to use my second brush that I have here. This is just a round, and I'm going to dip into my pine cone, which is more of a brown color, and I'm going to actually spray my brush this time because my pine cone has lived a little bit with the lid off. So it's a little bit more chunky than I would want to do on my paint. So by spraying it, it just allows me to thin out that paint a little bit so that when I apply it, it's not going to be as thick. So let's lay these 2 colors down here onto my project. And I'm going to show you what a little bit of ombre blending is. So when you use this brush, I like to keep a rag handy. This is just from a bag of rags, colored old cut up t-shirt. Have it here in my lap. When you see me push my brush down, I'm just wiping off my brush to get off the extra residue on my brush. I'm going to bring you nice and close so you can see what I'm up to here. And we are going to spray this brush with water, okay? This brush likes a bit of a damp surface. It works better when it is wet. So all you need to do is to ombre your colors together is to actually just push this brush in a small circular motion, travel those colors together, and marry the light to dark. You could do this in the second coat. You can do this on the first coat. It's up to you. I think for this project, because I'm going to be sanding back so much of the paint in order to achieve a really kind of faded out rustic look, I don't know if I'll do 2 coats, to be honest with you. But this is all that ombre blending is the marrying of 2 colors together. And I like the small circular motion because I feel like the small circular motion allows me to create like a cloudy finish. So this is cute now. We've got like this beautiful little finish. You can come in and add more. Like say I wanted to add a little bit more pine cone around the bottom down here. I could come in and just add more with my damp brush. And again, you can either spray your surface or you can spray your brush with water, and you're just going to move it in small circular motions, and that's going to allow you to ombre blend those colors. So it's just giving me like a cloudy rustic finish. You're going to see a couple little hairs travel off of this brush because it does have the natural fibers in it. It tends to kind of shed a little bit, and when I say shed, that means that some of the bristles fall out a little bit, but that's okay. What I like to do is actually wait for it to get dry, and then I just rub my finger over top of them, and what happens is they just flick off your piece. That way you're not messing around when your paint is damp. You're able to just kind of get in there and get those extra little bristles off. It's inevitable when you use a brush that has natural fiber in it. They always shed just a touch. Now I've got the base for a really cool feature. So since I'm going to wait for this to dry and sand back those edges, this is a really great canvas for getting here and maybe adding a transfer or putting a stencil. It's neutral, it's not crazy. It's like the perfect combo for me to get in here and get wild. So that's what I'm gonna do today. This is what we're gonna sit here and paint this ombre blend of colors together. I've got my little piece on wheels, so I can turn it a bit. You know what this reminds me of, the style? Do you remember furniture called This Ends Up? This ends. I can't remember if there was an S or just an end. They used to make this furniture that was kind of like, my boys had it. I have boys that have grown and flown the nest now. But when they were real little, we had these beds that were basically the same kind of look. I wonder if it's from that. I didn't even look at the bottom to see if like there was a maker's mark or anything. I picked it up at the thrift store. There's a stamp, but it's just a stamp of numbers. I bet you it's from that brand. If not, it's based very heavily on that look. It looks the same. It looks very similar. I see some people watching and chatting in the comments. All right, so what are we gonna do? We're gonna do the same thing. Let's just get in here and stick on that dried sage. So once I get this whole piece like painted and finished, it'll be very easy for me to add whatever transfer on top of it that I like. Because it's such a neutral base, it's going to allow me to have the options are endless when it's a nice neutral base. So I'm just going to put this on here. I'm going to go right over top of the screws and the nail holes. Again, remembering I'm going to do a lot of sanding back, and the sanding back will reveal that pine color underneath. That was the other reason I chose these two colors together with the pine cone and the dried sage, in order to, if there's any wood showing, still have it complement this kind of tonage on the piece. So I'm going to get in here with my chunky pine cone. It's about time to order a new pine cone, I think. This one's almost had the biscuit. So I'm going to paint that darker color around the edges. Make sure I get it up in there. The little edges around this tiny magazine rack. All right, so now we've got our two colors on here. I'm gonna grab my brush, I'm gonna wipe it off. I'm gonna spray it and wipe it, because if there's too much product on here, the paint tends to kind of get grabbed into those bristles and it makes it harder to work with. I'm gonna kind of circular motion these colors together. Again, you're able to see how fast and how easy these two colors blend. And again, I don't even think I'm going to add that second coat, to be honest. I really think that I will be keeping it kind of like a one coat wonder for this piece. And as soon as it gets dry enough, come in here and sand back those edges to show that wood underneath. I'm gonna stick my head around the corner, make sure I got all of my little corners. But doing this little circular motion is just such a simple way to pull the colors together without having to work very hard. Cute, cute, cute. Ooh, I almost dropped my little rag down there. I think I want even a little bit more on there. Let's put a little bit more light in the middle with the dried sage. And I'm not being very heavy-handed when I'm doing the circular motion. I'm being quite gentle and light. I'm just really clouding up the two colors and getting that base done. Cute, right? Super cute. So now we've got the side over here. And when it dries, dried sage gets a little bit more of a greenish tone to it. It's not as creamy. It looks pretty creamy when it's wet, but it definitely dries out. What are we going to do on the sides here? Let's figure out what we want to do over here. Let's add a little bit, because I don't want to overlap the edges too much. And we might even be able to get in here and do some wet distressing today. But the next time you see this piece, it'll have stencils, it'll have transfers, it'll be lots of fun. It's that simple, you guys. It's that easy to blend your edges when you're using this brush. This brush is so fun, so easy. Let's work on this little section over here. I know you can see that on the camera. I'm just gonna come in with this light. It's almost like a paint wash. Not doing 2 coats is gonna allow some of that wood grain to just peek right through. If I can tip it so I can get up in underneath here. How we doing? Is everybody tired and full from the holidays? How many cookies did you eat? Because I'm not gonna lie, I've eaten so many cookies, so many cookies. Oh my gosh, I'm actually almost sugared out. Like I could say that I'm gonna stop eating cookies, but then if you might put cookies in front of me, I'll probably eat them again. I've had a bad run-in with chocolate chip cookies lately. We found these delicious chocolate chip cookies that are like really soft and chewy. I've eaten way too many cookies this holiday season. It is ridiculous. I'm gonna turn this around. We might not have any cookies left, but you know what? I know that there is still a piece of cheesecake in my fridge. It's still there. It could get eaten. I don't know, it's a battle between the kids. My son is home visiting for the holidays, so he's been definitely eating up all the leftovers. But it's like, my daughter's actually taken to like putting sticky notes and her name on things because she doesn't want her big brother to come in here and eat them when she's not looking. Because he likes to do the midnight snacking and she's in bed long before he is. So she's taken to putting her name on items saying that it's hers, please do not eat. So, you know, I can't promise that they're not battling with each other a little bit over who might be like licking cookies for ownership. But that's what brothers and sisters do. It's like a sisterly, brotherly love of how gross and how many cookies can you steal from each other. It's going in strong in my house right now. So we've eaten a lot of sweets. We had a really nice Christmas vacation. I hope that you guys had some good time off too. It's been really nice to just kind of be lumps and bumps on a couch. That is for sure. And next up is New Year's, which we're kind of boring people. We really don't do much on New Year's. So I bet you we'll probably just stay home, eat pizza, watch TV. You can also blend with your brushes too. You don't have to be locked into that best dang brush. You can use the same brushes you have out. Since these colors are so close, you're really not that far off when it comes to blending. It's a very simple process. When you pick 2 colors that are so similar, you don't have to use your best dang brush. I just really like it for pulling the colors together. Make sure to get that paint right there in those corners. Really push it in. I like these colors together. I do these colors, these brown blends, quite a bit when I do the steampunk look that I love. There's a transfer from Dixie Belle called the Steampunk Transfer, and I give it a lot of love because I use it quite often, and I often use this kind of brown to black blend or brown to like tan blend. It goes really well with that transfer too. I don't know if you've been able to see it or not, but if you wanted to check out my Instagram or my TikTok, you're going to find a lot of videos of previous looks that I've done before. And it's one that I definitely do often. Add a little bit of caviar in there. You have like the perfect steampunk look. Super cute, super cute. So now we have just this little blend. You can get in on the edges, make sure your edges match. It's always helpful. Painting around corners. It always takes a little bit more on the blending way. Let's do the other side before we let you go. And then that way I can turn off the camera and stand up and work on the inside because I am going to have to paint the interior as well. First I have to get out my vacuum. I cleaned it, but there's still some dust and dirt in there. This sturdy little thing, this could make a really cute little accessory for somebody. Definitely strong and sturdy. Maybe somebody built it. I don't know. I get that handmade vibe whenever I see like screws and big staples like this. It always makes me think somebody made this. spray this brush again. Spraying helps to really push that paint into the crevices and get it into some of that knotty pine. Switch back to the dried sage. And we'll see if the other side is dry enough to maybe start doing some wet distressing on the edges. We'll see what we can get happening. Okay, back to my best dang brush. Once again, wiping it off, spraying with water. It's gonna be harder to hold this thing. All the corners are wet now. A little bit more paint in there. The lights in here are making it a little bit dry. You definitely need to have your paint be quite wet when you're doing ombre blending. I think I got this piece at a charity shop. It was only couple bucks, definitely under $5. I think it was $4 for this cute little box. Whenever I see anything wood that's like a tiny size like this, I always grab it. I just find that painting small things sometimes is just a great way to kind of spark your creativity, because sometimes painting like a big giant dresser or having to work on like a huge buffet, that can be a bit daunting, especially after the holidays when I'm feeling a little sluggish. So working on this is the perfect way to kind of ease back into it. And having this be such a great blank canvas for whatever transfer or stencil I decide to stick on it is perfect. It really is. It's a really good idea. I'm gonna add a little bit more shading in here with this brush, just around the edges. A little bit more pine cone. All right, now let's turn this back around to the beginning where we started. I'm gonna have to come back in and paint all of my tiny edges. Let's see if we can pull back some of this paint to reveal some of the wood underneath, and I'll show you what I mean when I say wet distress. So this is just a t-shirt-like material from Bag of Rags. Dixie Belle actually sells a bag of rags. They come pre-washed, all in white. So since I only did like one layer on here, it's gonna be very easy to pull back some of this paint and show, see there's that beautiful pine underneath. I don't mind the pine when it just peeks out. It's when the pine is aggressive and the whole piece is painted in, or sorry, not painted, but in that pine color stain, drives me a little bananas. I don't like the color of the orange. I'd much rather be a little bit softer. So by coming in and wet distressing, I'm just taking off some of the work that I did around the edges to really lighten it up and give a nice little contrast. It's gonna be a great canvas for when I come in here and do all the things to it, because you guys know I like to add all the things, make all the bells and whistles products come straight to life. I like that a lot. So if you use sandpaper, you're gonna get more of like a scratchier feel, and if you use just your finger and a wet cloth, it's gonna be a little bit more natural, just a little bit more worn out. I think that that is the look that I'm gonna go for. So once this piece gets dried, I'm going to be able to come in here, really wipe it hard with a damp rag and pull back some of that paint for a nice rustic feel. I like that color of the pine peeking through with the dried sage and the pine cone. That's a definite win-win for me. Are we on this side or the other side last? Which side was last? I think it was the other side. Let's see. Let's see if we can wipe a little bit off of this side and keep on with our process. So what transfer do you think I should put on this little guy? What transfer do you think will go nicely with this neutral kind of painted look? It could be something floral to make it buds and branches, make that purple really stand out. Purple really stands out well on like a nice sage color. I could come in and steampunk it up, but it's already squarish. You could definitely add a steampunk transfer, maybe some Would You Bend gears. See that nice gentle wet distress? Isn't that pretty? It looks so much more natural. I'm even gonna come up here and wet distress that screw, because if memory serves correct, it was black. Yep, it's black under there. So just wet distressing pulls back that paint, leaves a little bit more of a nice natural look. I really like to go heavy around the seams. Nice. That is the look we're going for today. That is the look we're going for today. So if you haven't tried ombre blending, I hope those tips help you. Pick two colors that are like-minded, that are very similar in the color wheel. You know, these two colors are very close. They're both shades of brown. That pine cone has a nice kind of greenish undertone to it. The dried sage has a greenish undertone to it. Goes well with that pine. You can see how that pine is showing up really pretty underneath here. The wet distressing, pulling back the paint, using that best dang brush to get that perfect ombre blend. Nice. What do we think? Super cute. I feel a sneeze coming on. Itchy nose. If I have itchy nose, my grandma would tell me that if you have an itchy nose, it means you're going to kiss a fool. She's never wrong, so you know, it's the truth. Who's coming over? I'm going to feel that little itch, that little tickle. So yeah, give it a try. I think that everybody can do an ombre blend. Ombre blends are simple when you definitely keep it simple. Don't go purple to orange or anything crazy. Stay within the same color family, knowing that it's easier to blend colors if they are like-minded. It's just going to make your job so much easier. And that best dang brush is an amazing blending tool for anybody to use. It's going to even take a beginner blender, and you're going to be able to get like professional results. I say give it a go, give it a try. It's not an expensive brush, and I actually keep two, one for wax and one for paint. I really love them and I use them quite a bit. Ooh, I like how this is turning out, you guys. I'm really happy with the wet distress. That's totally the look that I'm going for. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Stay tuned. I will show you the finished product when I am finished. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye so that I can stand up, get the vacuum out, and paint the interior, clean it and paint it, and get it ready.
All right, let's move on to the second part of our project. Now that I am working on the interior, I'm going to get this paint dry, and we're going to add a beautiful transfer and a silkscreen stencil. Remember that your paint must be 100% dry, usually waiting 24 hours to adhere that stencil and transfer to your piece. You don't want to peel back any of the paint if it's holding any moisture underneath. Another handy tip would be to seal your entire piece with clear coat before you begin. All right, let's learn all about silkscreen stencils. If you haven't used a silkscreen stencil before, you're missing out because they're actually super easy to use and a lot of fun. What's inside of a silkscreen stencil are the image sheets as well as a small little tool that you can use to push your paint through that mesh screen and onto your project. You can see when I peel back the screen here that where the green is where the paint will not go through, and obviously where the clear is where the paint is being pushed through a tiny mesh screen. So since this stencil has a sticky back, it adheres very easily onto your piece. Just push it down where you want it to go and give it a smooth with your fingers. You can then choose your tool that you're going to use to push the paint through. I personally like this little thingamajig. It is a silicone tool that bends and moves and allows me to use minimal amounts of paint. Majority of the time you will see me using a metallic paint. This is Gold Digger by Moonshine Metallics in Dixie Belle color range. I like to use the metallic line because it's a little bit thinner and it allows me to push through that screen very easily. So the thicker your paint, the harder it's going to be to push through the screen. And you really don't use a lot of paint when you do this. You can see the small amount. I'm just using that tool to kind of move it around and get it in and down through the screen and onto my project. When you are done pushing all of your paint through your screen and onto your project, you just peel off that stencil and you're left with a beautiful, bold, crisp stencil. And then if you are finished with it, you can stop right there and wash your silkscreen stencil, or you can reuse it a couple of times before it kind of junks up the mesh screen and you can't really push the paint through. But did you know that you can wash these stencils? I just take it to the sink and wash it with my scrubby soap, lay it with the sticky side facing upwards, and then you can reuse this whole entire stencil upwards to 10 times. All right, let's add our transfer to this piece. This little transfer is called like a mini transfer. It's not as large as some of the other ones that Dixie Belle Bells and Whistles has. So it's smaller in size, but it still contains up to 4 sheets along with your instruction sheet and your small little tool for burnishing your transfer down. If you have never used a transfer before, I'm going to walk you through the process. It's super simple, so if you know how to stick a transfer on, you don't have to watch this part. So the first part of any transfer project for me is to open up the package, look at all of the pieces that are inside, and decide my placement. I then am going to cut out the images that I want to use, and sometimes use blue painter's tape to take them up and make sure that I know exactly where they are going to go according to plan. So here you can see me cutting out all of the images and laying them down. Then I'm going to apply my transfer. So step number 1 is peel the transfer off the white backing. Now, when you do this, you need to know that the transfer backing is sticky. So once you push it down onto your artwork, onto your project, it's going to live there. So kind of plan it out before you push it down. Once your transfer is pushed down onto your project, you can then give it a quick little smooth with your fingers, and I like to then go around the edges with my tool to make sure that all of the edges are adhered well. I'm going to leave this part of the video in real time so that people can actually understand how a transfer is applied and how long it really takes. So you're more than welcome to hit that fast forward button and see the finished product, but for now, this is me scraping down that transfer onto the piece. Since I cut this image out, I'm fairly close to the edge where the plastic ends and my paint project begins. I'm going to be very careful to not scratch my fresh, clean paint on my project because that little tool is wood, so just gently go around the edges. If need be, lay a little piece of clear paper over top of that edge so you don't scratch your paint. Continue applying as many transfers as you like. You can bend them, you can layer them, you can put them around edges, whatever your little heart desires. You can totally do this with any of the transfer pieces. I wanted both sides of this project to match, so I did pretty much the same image placement on both sides. So when you turn around this little magazine rack, from any angle you look at, it is good to go. I even came back in and ended up adding tiny little bits of transfer to the top handle and then of course to the bottom all around the tiny mushrooms.
So for today's piece, I'm going to be using wax to seal. You have a couple of different options when it comes to sealing your chalk mineral paint. You can use wax, you can use clear coat, you can use gator hide, which is Dixie Belle's toughest top coat, but I am kind of a wax girl. I think some of that wax, I don't know, tendency comes from a little bit of laziness. I'm not gonna lie. If you have a project that is a possible bleeder, remember this is pine, you would probably prime before you put your paint on if you're going to be using a clear coat, because when you apply a clear coat to chalk paint, it tends to pull the tannins out of your project. And when you do this and sealing it with wax, you are able to kind of skip that step. Dun, dun, dun. Don't tell anybody my secret. So I like to use wax in clear. I know this looks white, but it's not. It's actually clear. It goes on in a little bit of a milky fashion. And when I use this wax, I just confirm that I'm not going to have any bleed through. It rarely happens when you wax a piece versus using clear coat. So some people like to apply their wax with a cloth or a rag. Some people like your big best dang brush. I literally grab whatever is closest to me. So this is not the best dang brush. This is the Belle brush, which was clean before I started. I think it just already had previous old wax on there. But this wax is water-based, super simple to use. Just brush it on like this, and you can use a rag to wipe it back. Then I'm going to be adding brown wax to really highlight those details. You can see the natural distressing that's happening when I did a little bit of that wet distress, and I also did a little bit with sandpaper as well. So that's as simple as that. Use your wax, seal your project. Use my little hack by not wanting to use a primer and using wax instead. Always kind of saves the day. It's a great way to seal your transfers and seal your furniture pieces as well. Give it a go. I think you will really like it.
I hope that you enjoyed this tiny but fun little makeover. I think transforming a boring old pine-colored magazine rack into something a little bit more boho and whimsical is always a fun idea. As always, whenever you're working on a Dixie Belle paint project and you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, Melissa, your Dixie Belle brand ambassador, to help you out along the way. You can find me across all social media at the Top Drawer RVA. Thanks for watching.